Greetings, Valley Explorers. This is part 2 of 2 for the Introduction to Earthborne Rangers demo on Tabletop Simulators. I'm recording a separate introductory video in order to introduce some things that I noticed about the previous video and to address the large concern that I have myself. And if you haven't watched the first playthrough, please do so. It covers the prologue of the demo and setting up your character for the beginning of the game itself, which is what this video is a playthrough of, the first day of after character creation. And I will admit that the demo playthrough for last time has a huge error. I accidentally treated clearing a card as a separate step after challenge icons are resolved. Cards are cleared after progress is placed or harm is placed enough to clear it before challenge icons are resolved. That will affect some of the way both games that I recorded play. And in the future, I plan on recording a more proper prologue as well as more in-depth gameplay analysis that will rely on actually getting the rules as right as I know them to be. I'm certainly, of course, open to rules discussions in case there's any gray areas or things I get wrong. And with that in mind, please enjoy part 2 of 2 of this playthrough, which at this point is probably best served as a guide to Tabletop Simulator as well as Earthborne Rangers, teaching how to kind of use some tricks and kind of shortcuts to make the game play a little smoother than it otherwise might. So enjoy. So to start the campaign, basically clear up the field and then follow step 1, which says to start the campaign, perform the first 4 steps of the rulebook page 10, as we see here, telling us to set up the player areas, draw the starting hands, elect the lead ranger, and then shuffle the challenge deck. So we're going to shuffle the challenge decks, shuffle our player cards, and draw a hand of 6. And get ready to go. There is mulliganing in this game where we can set aside a couple of cards, draw an equal number, and then shuffle those cards back in based on what we draw. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. And I recommend to really mulligan very hard. Don't be afraid to mulligan. I think I'll keep it like this. That gives us 2. Alright, so now we're ready to go. Then once we're done with step 4, it says, cresting the gentle grassy hill, you see the unmistakable silhouette of Lone Tree Station rise out of the highland plains before you. Lone Tree Station is aptly named. The single massive giga redwood towers above the hills and swaying grasses that surround it. You can just make out eaves and balconies among the gnarled bark, doors tucked into the winding roots, and hanging gardens suspended from branches. As you draw closer, a woman in a freshly pressed cloak steps out from the main entrance and waves. Calypso, your mentor for the past 9 months, strides toward you with a man who looks just about your age at her heels. Hello, she calls out. You made it. Just look at you. She clasps your hand, her smile warm and her grip firm. I'm glad to finally have you here, she says, and she turns. This is Cal Ivor. I trained Cal last year, right before I started training you. Cal gives you a nod of greeting. Pleasure, he says. So now we're going to put the Lone Tree Station into play in the surrounding area, and that's already been done. And then we read on. Calypso heads back to the station with you and Callie in tow. She speaks back over her shoulder. Please, make yourself at home. Explore the hanging gardens. Find Spirit Seeker, Nal, and Cordo, and strike up a conversation. Get to know the place. After you spend some time at the station, you should head over to White Sky or head up to Northern Outpost and see if old Lun could use a hand. In fact, ... This is where I find out that this demo, while very expansive, is nowhere near as inclusive of the main game content as you might imagine, despite its expansiveness, because what this demo will do is completely cut out all of the main storyline, and indeed, despite having paid a lot of attention to this game's press releases and watched plenty of the videos that the creators have put out, I don't really know anything about the main story. They've done an excellent job of hiding it, so I have no idea what's going to happen. Instead, we're going to skip over what would have been the introduction, the breadcrumbs to get us started, and read what it says here, which is, it says, check the Cambie tracker for the weather card of the current day, which is day 1, and put it into play, which we've already done, a perfect day, with its 3 tokens. And then there's more text. Calypso turns to you. Cal and I are heading out into the valley. We'll be on shadow patrol. That is, we'll never be too far away from you for the next few weeks. You shouldn't need our help, of course. I can tell by looking at you that you're more than capable. Farewell for now, Calypso says, and starts down the eastern path away from Lone Tree. Spirits guide you. Follow your instincts. She and Cal walk steadily out of sight. We're on our own. Let's see if our ranger can figure out what makes for a useful and productive first day as a ranger. So first we have to now, first thing we're going to do after this is now collect the cards to create the path deck, which will be our good friend the woods. So go ahead and copy and paste, as well as Lone Tree. So the location sets are different from the terrain sets. Terrain sets are fixed to the type of terrain that connects between locations, and it's icon to icon matched. So you see the upper left-hand corner, and you can see the icons there. Whereas locations are tied to the actual site you're at. And the prologue didn't quite tell us much about locations, so this is going to be our first time with locations. And in the Tabletop Simulator, they'll be handily named. Obviously, Lone Tree Station is the one we're looking for. But in the real card game, not only will they have one Lone Tree Station, or the location on the bottom of the card, but also the icon that matches. So since we're at Lone Tree Station, we'll go ahead and take the cards. And what I'm going to do is just copy and paste them, so this way I don't get them mixed up or accidentally delete them or have to go through and resort them or reshuffle them when I'm done. So complete all initial setup by performing the setup steps on the back of Lone Tree Station and placing 3 cloud tokens on perfect weather. And then that'll conclude setup. So we'll go ahead and do that. All location cards have a backside. Always follow the arrival setup instructions. Usually they'll put a path card into play, and then you'll get a path card on your beginning your next turn, because traveling is done in between ranger phases of the different turns, so your next turn will start with the draw path card phase. So you usually start a little bit behind. But as we'll see, that's not always a problem depending on the location you're at. The more friendly locations, as we'll see, it might be good to draw path cards. So it says to search for the path deck for the next predator and discard it. Now this is where the actual order of the deck matters. So, oops, didn't mean to do that. We can look at the top card is going to be a friendly being, a chef. Then there's going to be a prowling wolfhound. So we can go ahead and get rid of that. And since we did a search, we will go ahead and shuffle. Then it says, draw 1 path card. And it is our good friends, the Overgrown Thickets. Lone Tree Station, although a little bit free of predators, is not free of overgrown thickets. And as you can see, it is not a trail, but it is a pivotal forest ranger station. It's got 1 presence. It's got 3 to clear, and I can take, or any ranger can take a search action, which is awareness plus presence, or sorry, not presence, but connection to, nope, wrong card, to scout cards equal to your effort, and then draw a path card, because as we'll find out, that's a pretty good thing to do when you're at Lone Tree Station, excuse me, and you want to get a specific maybe card from the path deck, maybe a friendly being like a chef or someone else that Calypso recommended we look up, such as Nail or Cordo. So the beginning of the turn, first thing we do, we draw a very familiar Prowling Wolfhound. And now we've got a situation. So in order to resolve the situation, we'll see what works best and most efficiently. Let's see here. Let's see here. So what might make sense is to go ahead and just clear the Wolfhound or do a traverse test. Okay, so this is where being an undaunted seeker might be kind of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and initiate a fitness test using all three on to a traverse test on Overgrown Thicket. Not the hunt, but the traverse. I'm going to go ahead and use my Undaunted Seeker ability. I will exhaust to ignore fatigue from the Prowling Wolfhound. That would be 2 fatigue lost at the start of the test, so I don't want that. And then I'll commit my effort, additional effort, which will bring us up to a total of 5. This will make sure I succeed by 3, because of course if I pull a blue challenge card, I'll have to discard 1 progress, and the worst minus is a 2, so I just really want to succeed on this test, so I'll just go ahead and do that. So I'll pull my challenge card. And of course, I might not have planned enough for that. Maybe I did. We'll see. Okay, so 3 for 5 total effort. Minus 1 is 4, so we'll put 4 progress on the Overgrown Thicket. Then we resolve, and this is a blue mountain, so the first thing is weather. If this test added progress, yes, we add 1, 5, and it says remove 1, and then I get fatigued by 1, and Prowling Wolfhound has none. Then I will go ahead and play Walk With Me, where I will add an equal number of progress, which was in fact 4. Oops, wrong dice. And that clears it because it's 2 per ranger, which is 2, and that puts me at enough to clear it. So now I've got a Wolfhound with 4 out of 6 progress. I have 1 spirit left, which I should have played the Ironwood Boots first, so I could have used the Walk With Me to get my fatigue, to soothe my fatigue. Well, lesson learned. I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and try a focus action to remember my training. I'm not very good at it, but we'll try. +1, and then blue triggers, and it didn't add progress, so I don't get a +1. So that puts me at a total of 2. So I'll go ahead and scout 2. Alright, so I can take my stick to thwack things, or I can do better than that, and I'll do that. Alright. Now I could do an avoid test, or take some fatigue and do a search action, but I think I'm fine. Go ahead and do the end of round effects, which are to ready all exhausted, draw 1 card, remove 1 all-purpose token, sideways so I don't get confused. And now we've got 2 more turns of perfect weather before the sun comes out. And now I've got the 2 cards that I scouted for, because I drew a card in addition to the remember action at the end of turn you draw a card. Now we draw the top of the path deck. Oh, Sitka Doe. So now we'll get to hopefully see some interesting interactions this game can engage in. So the shoe action isn't going to matter too much in solo, but it can depending on along the path or within reach, depends on where the doe ends up. So you could potentially bat the doe into along the way if you have something you want to interact with along the way, but that's not going to apply for us here at the ranger station. So I think what I'm going to want to do is just clear off the wolf. yeah, I'll go ahead and spend 2. And we'll see if we get lucky. No, we do get lucky. So I will put on the 6 that was required to clear it. And then we do the red actions, which says if 3 or more fatigue, we just have the 1, so the wolf gets shooed away. I connect with the wolf, stare deeply to its eyes, and convince it to go hunt elsewhere. So now we've got a much easier animal to presence clear with, to get some progress on, but no spirit left to do that. I could set up or advance. Why don't we just set up? We got some time. Okay, so the boots take up 1, trail mix takes up 2. And then the sensor, oh, we need to put down the number of, oops, wrong token. Put down the number of tokens we need. As I pull out my munchies, my ever-ready munchies, and do I want to put down my boundary sensors or save up next turn for some hiking staff? Maybe club a deer. I don't feel comfortable clubbing a deer, so I'm going to spend 1 fitness to grab the wrong token again, to grab a progress token eventually, and put it at 4. So I could potentially clear. Yeah, why don't we do that? So I will not clear, but I will take the search action on Lone Tree to look just for someone who might be friendly who's walking around. So I'll spend 2, and then I'll exhaust to not take a fatigue. All right. So the green is -0, so I have a total success of 2. So I get to scout 2 and then draw 1 path card. Ooh, that's not going to happen. Okay, so that's clearly going on the bottom. I don't want to see a caustic mulcher around here, although there would be a handy way to get rid of the dough. Now the sunberry brambles are within reach. And now we resolve effects, which is the sun, and it says if there are 1 or more Sitka bucks in play, not in play, and no other challenge effects trigger. So now I can try to do more focus. And this is where the game kind of has an interesting balancing point. This is where I'm kind of at a balancing point where the more I use Remember, the bigger my hand gets, which means the more plays I can make, but you are drawing from your life force. In this game, there's a hit point system. You can take 3 hits and then you're in trouble. But the typical hit points you'll find yourself grappling with are going to be your deck's total size, how many cards you have left. And in this case, I have 21 cards left. The easier thing to do in Tabletop Simulator is to check your cards size, deck size, than if you are going to be doing this physically. A challenge I can't wait to get used to. But with 21, I think I'm comfortable trying at least 1 more, and there are no real challenging effects that I'm scared of. And indeed, if I pull blue, the doe will get distracted by the brambles, and that's probably a good thing. So let's see what we got. So I did a blue action to just basically scout the top, pull it into hand, and then it's got a red icon which doesn't trigger, and instead of being done with the test, this extra icon means that it's a shuffle moment. And the challenge deck has about 1/4 of it or 1/5 of it that shuffles it, so you'll never get all the way through the challenge deck without being able to reshuffle. Okay, all my energy spent. I don't think I want to do anything else. So now I will load back up on my spirit tokens as I take a rest, and then go into the, not going to do the travel because I haven't quite figured out how to leave the ranger station yet. Draw a card, and then I will pull the top of the deck, and I get an active predator. Okay, so now that I'm kind of a bit busy here at Lone Tree Station, keep wanting to call it One Tree Hill or something, for some reason. Now I've got quite the living menagerie that's trying to kind of figure out what I'm up to as I'm trying to figure out what they're up to. The Wolfhound is, again, the main focus for whatever I'm going to do. And that means that I'm probably going to want to send it along the path, which means I might as well just spend my spirit, throw down my compassionate, pull the top of the challenge deck, and hope for the best. Okay, so that is just about the best. Puts me at 4. Then I'm going to resolve. Perfect day. I forgot to get rid of the second token from that. At the end of last refresh. Gives me 1 additional, which puts me at 5. I like to see that. If there's an active predator, exhaust it and deal damage equal to the presence. Or if there's an active prey, exhaust it. I think I'll go ahead and do the Sunberry Brambles first. So the doe is... Nope, actually I'll take that back. I'll do the Prowling Wolfhound first. So it says if there's an active predator, exhaust it, and then deal damage equal to the presence. So the doe is been removed from the field. Okay. So that's kind of how the living world can kind of take shape. Now note that Wolfhound is exhausted, so it's basically like it's not in my way at all. The brambles still are, where I can soothe fatigue twice from plucking, or I can use my Undaunted Seeker to try to run away, or I can just kind of just explore, see what's up. I think that's what I'll probably do. I'll spend another 2 awareness to try to see what's around. Oh, wrong thing. Sorry about that. Oh, I completely messed that up. Sorry about that, everybody. Go ahead and correct my mistake. Since I had set up the path deck, I'm going to put that at the bottom. I'll draw the card. Okay, so I was doing green focus, or excuse me, awareness to try to do the search check while dodging the plants, and I got a -1, so I have a 1. So I do succeed, but I just have to pull the top card, and it is a Sitka buck. Okay, well, I keep finding plenty of animals to pet and interact with and to connect with, but nothing to help explore further what's going on in the station. Well, this is a feature, so I could clear it if I wanted to. Not sure I want to. Let's see here. 19, yeah, I'll go ahead and see what's up. All right, I pulled 2. I don't really see myself needing to heal. Maybe that will be a thing that I'll want to do. Instead, I'm going to be a leaf in the breeze. And so now, even though I'm built to travel really efficiently, I don't know if I really want to clear the Sunberry Brambles. Yeah, maybe I do just because I can. Because it's a feature, I am going to do a fitness travel test to do traverse. And it's a +1. Alright, so that puts me at a giant number. So that's 4 more than I needed. Oops, sorry about that. And now I can clear it, and since the challenge card didn't have an effect that's going to trigger, since there is no active doe, which is nice, so this way I don't get charged by him trying to protect the doe, and the predator is exhausted, the brambles are cleared. And despite having a messy turn, I think the turn is done, and I'll go ahead and ready everything, so now the wolf is back on my tail, or it's chasing me down. Then we clear off the weather, flip it over, and I draw my 1 card. Hopefully it'll be something useful. An icon that I get to commit is what it is. Alright, because you can only have 1 unique item, so I can only have 1 pair of boots on. So now we get to draw the top of this. Here we get something interesting. The Hanging Gardens. It's a floral structure, and it's got page 43 as a introductory point, or we're going to look at 43. So I'll just do the search icon. And then, nope. Oh, there it is. Okay, my bad. So the Hanging Gardens. 5 meters above the ground, you step out of the doorway leading into the trunk of Lone Tree and onto a wildly swinging catwalk of boards and ropes. You keep a firm grip as you make your way toward the massive boxes, each as large as a flatboat and overflowing with plants that hang from the tree's thick branches. As the wind shifts, you catch the heady aroma of blooming flowers and ripe vegetables. Now, as you can kind of see, I kind of give us a bit of a tour of the campaign guide. There are quite a number of potential entries within each entry number. This one only had the one to describe what it was like to see the Hanging Gardens, where we can go and eat if we want to soothe fatigue and heal, but it has no further text to kind of have us grapple with. Note that this has a presence of 1 and it's not friendly, so it will still fatigue us if we try to handle things that are along the way or things that are in the surroundings. So this is the card we drew for our path card. So we've got an active buck, which is pretty difficult to clear for us, a active wolfhound, which is very difficult, but luckily we put a lot of presence on it previously, and then the Hanging Gardens, which can be difficult for us to clear out, since we don't really have enough awareness to maybe eat too many per turn. We'll see how it plays out. So I think what I'm going to do is clear out this wolfhound, because it could help us clear the buck, but we'd have to be pretty lucky in pulling the blue and not the red. And if we want to explore more of the path deck, we need to clear out some of this stuff. So I'll go ahead and I'll try to connect with the wolfhound and convince it that it should shoot. It should go off somewhere else. So that gives 2 effort. So we're going to put our, drew the card again by mistake. Put our effort from 5 to 6, and then add an extra 1 before we clear it. And then the yellow was drawn, so we have to suffer 1 fatigue. I did forget to add 1. We're going to add 1 fatigue. Now we've got 2 fatigue. The yellow says if there's an active Sitka buck, and this says if another prowling wolfhound is around, which it's not, so we clear off this prowling wolfhound. A little bit of a messy end of turn there. I forgot to add clouds gathering for the perfect day to come back, and then now I've got some choices. So the Hanging Gardens won't block us, so if we can shoo the Sitka buck, or not shoo it because that's something you do to doze, if we can connect with it and send it on its way, or maybe just replace the trail mix with our staff and just slowly wail on it. We'll see. But speaking of the trail mix, I think I'll go ahead and munch on it to recover up to 3 fatigue. That'll give us 2. Oh, there's that compassionate. So if we do search, we will draw some fatigue. Or we could maybe try to get some food and just try to clear Hanging Gardens with damage. I'll go ahead and clear it with presence. So we'll do a traverse test. Go ahead and spend a sensor to clear out the Hanging Gardens. Pull the top card. It's -1, so I had 3. 4 minus 1 is 3, so we'll put 3 progress counters on it. Almost had enough to clear it in one go. And then we check for red, and we're fine on red challenges. And that's probably what we want to stop at. I don't know if I want 1 fatigue, because we are getting at the halfway point of our deck, and that's where I think things get a little dicey. Yeah, I think we'll be fine calling it quits for the turn. So then we can do our rest action. All Rangers have rested. Then we'll do our refresh. And note with this game, there are moments or turns like that. We have moments like that where you find yourself not quite wanting to spend all your energy. The best turns, of course, are where you spend all your energy, all your cards, all your tokens, and you're maximizing your kind of resources. But it's not always going to happen. Draw the top of the path deck. Here as we get to some interesting outcome. This is an interesting turn. So we have a friendly being, Spirit Speaker Nal, who we were cautioned to maybe check in on. And we can go to the campaign guide and go to 45, where it says, Spirit Speaker Nal enters play. If you don't have either the accommodation or intervention mission, go to 45.1. That's the first thing we don't have, so we'll do that. 45.1. From one of Lone Tree's balconies, you hear the voices of two people arguing. One you immediately recognize as Cordo Haversons, but it takes a moment before you recognize that the other is Spirit Speaker Nal. You don't think you've heard her raise her voice before. You find the two of them in the midst of a heated debate. Cordo's face is flushed, and Nal has her arms crossed and is glaring. Although you're not sure what's going on, you feel like you should step in. If Cordo is not in play, search the path deck for him and put him into play in the same area as Nal. Do not read the enters play effect. Okay, so I had a little bit of an uglier moment earlier, but I preserved where the caustic mulcher is. Obviously, that's about to change as I need to find Cordo. So I'll go ahead and shuffle it up. And now it says go to 45.4. So go to 45.4. You get between Nal and Cordo and ask them what they're arguing about. Cordo huffs, and Nal rolls her eyes and turns to you. We have been debating this since Cordo and I first met, actually, she says. It's a question of our role here, both as Rangers and inhabitants of this valley. Don't make this too dramatic, Cordo grumbles. I just think that if you're going to be proper stewards here, it's up to us to clean up our ancestors' mistakes. Nal shoots back, biomelts aren't mistakes. They must have been created for a purpose thousands of years ago. But in the time since they've evolved and become part of the ecosystem, they reproduce, they coexist. They're just like any other being. Oh, you think that caustic mulcher has been lumbering around the wooded areas of the valley, is coexisting with everything else? Cordo looks at you. Maybe you can settle this. Nal thinks that the big, sticky-tongued, acid-drooling eating machine is a part of the environment. I, on the other hand, think it's been eating its way through the rest of the ecosystem, and it's time to stop it. What do you think? He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a ball of cloth. You catch it and open it, and you find it's actually a long and lethal-looking gauze blade. Gain the gauze blade reward. So we can find it up here in the rewards and maladies. I do want to warn, I should have warned at the start of this, that obviously there'd be spoilers for parts of the game that we experience. I will grab it as quickly as possible, the gauze blade, and recall it. So now this is added to the campaign supply, which I'll just put over here. And there's technically two, so I'll create a pile of two. That card won't come into play until the end of the day, so obviously for this demo playthrough, I won't use the gauze blade, but my character is expertly designed to take advantage of it, so I probably would want to make room for it. And then it continues on. Nal sighs. Well, it's important to be able to identify yourself to it, just like any other being. She says, the caustic mulcher, like the other biomelds around here, is an important part of the ecosystem. I haven't observed a drastic increase in animal population. Excuse me, that's decrease, not increase. Have you, Cordo? If the mulcher was a mistake, nature would have corrected it by now. It doesn't eat everything, only what it must. Cordo grunts. You've already told me your plan to prove it. Coating yourself in leaf paste and seeing if the mulcher will eat you or spit you out sounds like a terrible idea. Oof, that does sound like a pretty brave idea. And Nal continues. If I'm right, then the mulcher won't eat. And if I'm right, then the mulcher won't eat living plants or something that tastes like one. It's not cutting a swath through the forest. It's helping to manage it. We can either agree with Cordo, the mulcher must go, or agree with Nal, the mulcher is misunderstood. Well, looking at the kind of character I created with their big giant pool of focus, I think we're going to go with Cordo, the mulcher must go. Let's do intervention. So we can go to the mission stack, which I put over here so it wouldn't get confused. And we can see intervention. Wait, where is intervention? Accommodation. Okay. So now we formally have a mission in play. And mission cards will look like this. Intervention mission. You've agreed to help Cordo remove the unnatural biomeld caustic mulcher from the ecosystem. Explore the woodlands of the valley where caustic mulchers can be found. And it says at any point the group can choose to change their mind and help Nal instead. If they do, flip this card, replace intervention with accommodation in the campaign tracker, and we are hoping to clear the mulcher with damage, which we already know takes a lot of effort. And now these two cards are in play, which gives us even more reasons to worry about what will happen if the mulcher appears. Note, these beings are not persistent. They're friendly, though, but they're not persistent. And they will not stay with you if you leave. However, they can be both individually cleared with connection to add progress token equal to their blue number, which is 3 per ranger, or in our case, 3 for solo. But they're still vulnerable to active predation, particularly Nal, who just needs 1 predator, while Cordo needs 2. So he's a bit better at being around predators. And he can hunt beings with you, so you can actually use him to help put damage on beings and then help get him happier as you connect with him through hunting, whereas Nal can use focus and connection to try to scout the challenge deck, which gets pretty interesting. Because the challenge deck, of course, is a bit of an inscrutable determiner of your fate. So that's what pulling now lets us do. So we now have a mission. We know the mulcher's in those last 7. I could potentially, and this was some strategic thought, make a run to Boulder Field and try to trick the mulcher out to a place where it's somewhat vulnerable, or I can try to fight it in the valley's ranger headquarters here with 2 rangers with me, one of whom I definitely would be worried for her to be around while this happened. The other can be a great help if he's around with me. So as we're kind of exploring this demo, I think it's important to maybe acknowledge that from even the base stripped down game we're still getting some really emergent storytelling that's just kind of, I find just really fascinating and draws me in as I'm spinning my head trying to think about how all of this is actually happening, where I've got 2 rangers I want to protect, I've got these hanging gardens to kind of pick fruit from, I've got this buck who I really don't want a doe to come out because then he'll get really angry at me as he's worried that I'm going to hunt her, and with Cordo around, that's probably a good fear. I imagine he's probably killed his fair share of Sitkas. So this is the start of the turn. Now I get to make choices. Note, of course, that Lone Tree Station will let me dig for cards if I want. And another thing that I think this turn let us explore about this game is finding cards from the path deck can be excellent. And that is one thing I really like about this game versus the Fantasy Flight living card games that are the co-op card games like Lord of the Rings, Arkham Horror, and Marvel Champions. Is in those games, everything coming out of what would be the equivalent of the path deck is like the worst thing ever and makes you scared and lose the game and cry and gnash and go, oh my goodness. But in this game, it's a mixed bag. And indeed, I think I'll do the travel option just to show some of the ways in which you can kind of like feel like a weird and interesting living game. Because I think there'll be some things exciting going on. What I will do then is I'll spend 2 spirit tokens to do a connection test, and of course I'll spend my 2 heart. And what I think I want to do is I want to connect with Cordo, I think. And that puts me at 4. I'll pull the top of the challenge card, and I'm going to get 0. So that puts it at 4, which means he's progressed. Then we have to do our challenge, which this says suffer 1 fatigue. That's unfortunate. That's what eating trail mix is for, I suppose. And there's no buck, so I'm good. Or they're good, I guess, because they'd be battling each other. And then you see the reshuffle icon. So now we can go to 44 and scroll up. And it says enters play, clear, and clear. We're going to clear with progress, where it looks for helping hand not attached, Cordo's quarry not attached, which is, that could be interesting. Well, that's for further play to find out. And 44.6 is otherwise. And it says, Cordo says, with a smile crossing his weather-beaten features, now that you're no longer in training, Elder Thrush can't stop you from coming on a hunt with me on account of it being too dangerous. Up in the northern woods, the ones in the mountains beyond the valley, there's something up there that's evaded every snare, and I've lost every time I try to follow it. To this day, I haven't spotted more than a shadow in the trees. He sticks out his hand. What do you say, fellows? Or fellow? Want to head up north with me and help me catch my greatest quarry? So we can either accompany him to the northern outpost, which will remove the progress token and attach helping hand, or say some other time, discard the ranger veteran, and we can soothe fatigue. I think I'll go ahead and start that mission. So we search for helping hand, and helping hand says, you've agreed to help this person with a task around the valley. Do not add this to the campaign tracker. If you do not help this person for the end of the day, the opportunity is lost for now, and it gains persistence. So basically, what this says is he will stick around till the end of the day when the game ends, because each game is 1 day. And once that's done, you shuffle him back into the deck, whatever they came from, in this case, the Lone Tree Station, where I can find him again and do the same clearing action, and then try to finish his helping hand. And as you can kind of gather from what you see here, these helping hands are additional side quests or ways that you can help kind of flesh out your character or the experiences you're having. If you want to go follow Cordo, you can. You can want to explore now. We could if we wanted to, but I think I'm going to push on, suffer 2 fatigue, I think, and just clear this location. Since I do have my trail mix, I'll be able to soothe some fatigue. Or I can just spend 1 awareness for dodging, even though I'm going to be dodging more than there are. Since I'm taking a traverse action, I spent 3 energy. I'll traverse, and this says after you play a moment, soothe the fatigue. And I will be at 3. I'll go ahead and spend a boundary sensor to put me at 4. Yeah, I trust those odds. Okay, so I lucked out. That puts me at 3. Then we do the icons, so I will get fatigued, running down on my cards, and there is no buck active. So now we've got 3 up there. We've got enough to travel. I'm running a little light on cards. I think I'll go ahead and do a focus action anyway. Oof, I fail, -2. There's no red icons to trigger. And then I think we're good. I've got 1 energy left, and I don't think I can use it for anything, so I'll go ahead and restack my energy, unexhaust everything, and we're doing the travel action before we do refresh. We've got to remember that. So we're up to travel phase, and we will clear the play area, set up travel to the location, decide whether or not to camp, which we won't for now. Build the deck, and then arrival step. So we'll clear the play area. And this is why I like to copy and paste the locations, because you can just do that. So we're going to travel to the boulder field, which will switch out this location for the boulders. And now we can read entry 14. So let's see what entry 14 has for us. It says Boulder Fields. Long ago, a great mountain once stood here, but as the millennia passed, it steadily split and crumbled. At the edges of the boulder field, the ground is littered with round rocks the size of apples. As you head deeper in, however, the boulders grow larger until you find yourself weaving between what you imagine to be the bones of a lost mountain, pillars of rock that reach towards the sky. So no further instructions beyond that. Now, this is something I think that's really interesting about this game that I imagine as you play further into the campaign are going to be more extreme. If the location is the kind that Boulder Field is, where it's got the just the basic outline and not the special yellow one, to make the path deck, you pick the set that corresponds to your travel, in this case forest, and then you pick 3 from the valley set. 1, 2, 3, and since I'm not going to flip it over, I'm not going to know. Now you can, of course, in your own game, peek if you want to. It doesn't say it has to be something you don't see, but it has to be random. So I'm just going to go ahead and surprise myself. And then, as we've already experienced before in the prologue, we will draw 1 challenge card, and we will find what it says. Uh-oh, scout 3 and then draw 2. That could actually be useful because we are, after all, hunting for an animal. Yeah, let's find out what Quizzy Boss, the rascal, is up to, although I think she can be a bit dangerous to gear if you're not careful. If I remember correctly from the prologue. Oh, yeah, we'll let Cordo will put Quasi off to the side. So we'll go ahead and read 80 now. And we'll scroll down. Okay, Quasi-Boss. So if Oravos is in play, nope, go to 80.3. From up ahead, you hear a child quietly singing to herself. You move around a large cedar bowl to find a young girl. Well, we'll probably say that's probably actually a rock. Maybe 8 years old. Tracing patterns in the ground with a rock. Well, one she clearly found amongst the ruins of the mountain. She's covered in dirt, head to toe. In place of her left hand is a miraculous piece of technology, a prosthesis gleaming in the sunlight, its fingers suspended in air, held only by her body's memory of her hand. As soon as she notices you, she hops to her feet. Oh, hi, I'm Quizzy. What are you doing? Where are you going? What is that? Can I use it? She's clearly pointing at my boundary sensors. Each time you answer a question, she has another one at the ready. It seems like you have a new traveling companion, at least until you can satisfy her curiosity, and we have to clear her with progress to solve that curiosity. So that's the setup. So then we can flip over Boulder Field and unexhaust, put our energy back, and draw our card. Now we're getting a little light on our deck. We have almost a third left, not quite, so we're going to have to be a bit careful as we hopefully hunt for this caustic mulcher. And note, I did not take Cordo where he was hoping to go, instead hoping to have him help me hunt the mulcher. Okay, so now we have a predator, a prey, and 2 friendly beings. Note that Quasi-Boss, despite being friendly, is still fatiguing, which means if you try to do tests beyond her along the way or in the surroundings, she will fatigue you because she's that annoying. But you can use your focus, which my character's not great at, to deal with her that way, to be smart about it, which I can't quite be. I'm not quite that smart. So I think, let's see what our choices are. Yeah, we're going to do that. So I'm going to spend a focus token. Oh, nope, we can't yet. I forgot how much equipment we have in play. Yeah, if we draw a yellow token, then she can hurt our gear, so I need to be careful about that. Yeah, so why? Yeah, well, let's see if we can work some magic on this wolf to try to clear it out. Okay. Alternatively, I could just put a bunch of progress on Boulder Field, and then maybe next turn use Afforded by Nature to push the wolf off the cliff and transfer that super success into super damage. But that's the kind of thing I was hoping to save for the Caustic Mulcher. Yeah, guess I'll start working on the wolf. Note that if I pull a red, that could be trouble for the little girl that I'm trying to satisfy her curiosity of. Oh, I forgot to do one more thing, of course, which I always seem to be forgetting to do, and that is put on the last token for the cloud token during the refresh phase, and then flip it over so that now we're back at the perfect day. Okay, so -1. I did not succeed, so I do not put any on because the target number was 2. Oh, never mind. The target number is 1 because of Boulder Field. Let's put 1 on. Okay. So now, let's see here. All right, I'll go ahead and eat the last of my trail mix, and that'll help me soothe fatigue. Then that's literally what I was about to do. I'll replace the trail mix with a hiking staff. Now, notably about the hiking staff, which is what makes it pretty useful when Quizzy Voss is around to stare at it. It doesn't get discarded when it doesn't get useless. It isn't useless when the tokens are gone, so I don't have to fearful if she takes all the stride tokens away. It just won't be useful for adding tokens to trails. Which is how I was hoping to kind of maybe take on the Caustic Mulcher. So now I could, let's see here, I've got one more red energy. I could maybe go for a hunt, but I'm trying to, yeah, maybe I could go for a hunt. Oh, there was red. I was just worried about that. That's bad. So then we exhaust the Predator, and Quizzy Voss takes 2 red. That is very, very bad. Let's see, is there anything we can do? Well, speaking of her stealing all of my tokens, let's go ahead and put 1 progress on this location, because it is a trail, so you can just use hiking staves to work your way there. Then we will, let's see here, use awareness to dodge something. I don't quite need to do that. Folks, draw a card. Yeah, I guess we're getting kind of desperate now that that's already happened. We do, in fact, draw a card. So we basically scout and then draw the card. It's going to be more traverse, which I think I'm going to do, actually. I will suffer 1 fatigue no matter what I do. I think it's probably worth it. The blue, active predator, there's not. And that's not putting presence, so I'm fine. Okay, so I'm going to spend a fitness. And I think it's time just to go all out. So my total effort is now 6. Because that's kind of what I do. I will avoid 1 of the fatigue and suffer 1 of the fatigue. I will go ahead and avoid Quizzies because that's, I think that's more appropriate. The deer gets in my way. But I put a total of 7 on for a total of 8. That's excellent. That means I've got plenty of damage to pass around. Then I check for active sun, and I do, of course. have to remove 1 progress or 1 token from a plant, insect, or gear. Why don't I get rid of this one? I've forgotten to add 1 more effort to the commit test. That's okay. This will just be a battery for her to draw from as she steals my boundary sensors to look at them. And now I've got a pretty good setup for some damage if I need it. And I can't add any more items because I'm stacked up. And I think I'm good. So yeah, let's go ahead and try to hang on until the caustic mulcher shows up. And oh, that could be useful. Okay. That is not great. Okay, so I'm clearly experiencing what it's like to get a little bit overwhelmed. Not entirely, because I do have some combat options. I do have, thanks to the way I built my deck. So I can spend all of my fitness to basically instantly clear the Howling Predator, but I won't have enough fitness left to hunt. And Quizzy's really in trouble of getting predatored. Now I do have enough to traverse to leave. I do have enough progress to leave, so I can run and clear off everything, including Quizzy, and run back to the ranger station and maybe hope for a better outcome. And that's what also gives us a chance to pause and think about the way the game works for this, for Earthborne Rangers, is you don't have a fixed end goal, you just have a choice to make. And unlike the campaign content, there is no real term limit, so you could potentially play for 30, 40 sessions, and unlike with the campaign, you don't have to really worry about long-term suffering for failing to complete a goal in time, which is to say that this caustic mulcher quest, as far as I know, doesn't have any time limit on it. As far as Helping Hand goes, he'll just go away and come back. So now that I've got less than 10 cards, less than a third of my deck left, there's some strategic points to make strategic decisions. Do I fight these prowling wolfhounds, or do I just walk away from the boulder and hope for a better start at the Lone Tree Station, or even the next day if I want to pause to add the gauze blades? So I think I'll do at least 1 more turn. I'll go ahead and I'll just do the test list damage as it might be considered and pull out Afforded by Nature, and basically trip a wolfhound off of the cliff. So I'll spend 4 of the 8 because I did a really good really good progress token, really good progress test, allowing me to add a lot of tokens. And since it's testless, I don't have to worry about the wolfhounds just absolutely ganging up on Quizzy, because I definitely don't want her wounded. Oh, the damage would have been 1 because the boulder field is a very safe place to get surrounded by predators at. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm going to do again. Oh, dang it. I can't quite do that. But I can definitely do this. Spin it up to 5. And I might as well... Yeah, we'll go for Quizzy. Don't quite have any heart icons to support it with, but maybe I'll get lucky. And literally got the opposite of lucky. Alright, so she gets 2, but then suffers. Okay, that isn't what I was hoping for. And then the predator is tapped, or exhausted, excuse me. And now I can, let's see here. Wait till next turn. Yeah, that's what I'll have to do. Okay. So I'm done with my turn. Draw 1. Alright, let's see how things go. Okay. His forest is quite alive. So now I have the Sitka buck to worry about. And now there is a doe. So tests are dangerous now. Well, this is exhausted, so I'll go ahead and remove the last token. And I will put up to 6. Yeah, I guess I don't want Quizzy to get hurt, so I think it is probably time to skedaddle from this zone and see if I can do something with the rest of my 8 cards. So I'll just do nothing for my turn. I probably should have maybe moved last turn, but you know. I was hoping for the Caustic Mulcher anyway, so I could maybe push my luck. That did not happen. Much, I'm sure, to Cordo's dismay, we are going to travel at the end of the turn. This should go down 1, and then this will go down 1 again. Once we're done traveling, we'll have to refresh. Put this dice away, put this dice away, put this dice away. Cordo looks back at the very obnoxious, inquisitive little girl who I was not able to satisfy and was in fact getting kind of sliced up. And start to gather these cards up. Of course, obviously in oh, this is supposed to not be there. Obviously in the real game, the physical game, you wouldn't be deleting cards. Alright, so we'll go back to Lone Tree. Actually, do I want to go to... Yeah, why don't I go to 3 or Forest, and that's what I really need. So let's go to Ancestor Grove. So Ancestor Grove. So we'll take the Forest. And then we're going to want the Valley set. And it says go to 15 for the arrival story. So 15 says Ancestor's Grove. A reverent calm suffuses your being as you step into the Ancestor's Grove. Each of the trees, from the smallest sapling to the towering giants at the grove center, has been planted over the final resting place of a loved one. You move with care through the grove. You see several people, some keeping to themselves, some speaking softly, some bearing gifts, all here to commune with those who have passed. You pause and give thought to your ancestors. So I pause, I think about my ancestors. I note that this is a forest and a trail, which is of course going to help me because I do good with trails, thanks to being an exploring traveler. So the arrival setup is search the path deck for the next card with 3 presents and discard it. Uh-oh, I forgot about this because this means I am going to have to... Oh, that's unfortunate. There is something that could have eaten this 3, but that did not happen, so... Okay. Then the lead ranger searched for the next prey and put it into play, so I'm getting a prey. The next prey is a buck. That is unfortunate. So, well, luck means that this day will end without a Caustic Mulcher defeat. But I can start the next theoretical day with the Gauze Blade. Oh, forgot to ready. Then I will draw my card and finish my turn. Start of the turn for the Ancestor Grove. Yeah, I pulled that off last time already. Okay. And there it is. There is Quiet, which has a intro text because Quiet is quite the impressive hunter. Quiet. You stare at the bushes ahead for a few minutes. Something seems wrong, but you can't spot anything dangerous. Then, slowly, you make out the large, lean body covered in white coat of fur. The paws, each as big as your hands and sporting shiny black claws. One of the ears, shredded and covered in lumps of pink scar tissue. And finally, the shining red-yellow eyes staring back, unblinking. You've heard stories about the bearded lynx they call Quiet, that she hunts bear sloths for sport, that she relentlessly stalks prey from one end of the valley to the other, that she attacked and killed the traveling artist Mars Keller, leaving only his sketchbooks to bury at the grove. Oh, that is very sad. Now, seeing her for yourself, you believe them. Luckily, I have Cordo with me. He can help me hunt Quiet if I want to beat Quiet with damage. But there is an ambush ability, which, just to refresh myself, says to... we'll get there eventually. Ambush. When the card with the ambush keyword enters play within reach or moves within reach, fatigues that ranger. That is going to hurt. Alright, this is how things go from okay to not okay. So now we've got 3 cards in the fatigue pile, or 4. We've got 4 left in the deck, and Quiet is in our face. And we have now started the turn with the creature the being we had hoped to engage with, the Caustic Vulture, nowhere in sight. And fleeing this location takes a 4. Beating back Quiet takes 5, plus I have to do the travel. Now I can do a Leaf in the Breeze and throw in everything I got. I think I'm going to do that. I think it's time to flee. So I will be a Leaf in the Breeze, which lets me soothe fatigue, because I'm going to initiate a 3 fitness traverse test, and then I'll spend my last for my last beacon, or my last sensor, to make that 3 a 4, a 5, 6, and a 7. Might as well do that. Okay, so that puts me at 7. I think that's what I want. That's 1 over. I'll go ahead and pick this one up. So I'm 2 up, which means I can't fail. I can only get 4. So it's 6 to 4. And plus 1, so I get 7. So I have a little bit of a cushion, which this deck can actually play with, which is cool. Although it's not a trail. Oh, it is a trail. That's right, it is a trail. And then it's red icons. Uh-oh. So I will, take an injury. So injury goes here, and then we get our fatigue pile and just put it in the discard, so I can't even draw it. Quiet pounces on me, and it got me good. But now I'm ready to travel, so we can turn this rough turn around. I'll go ahead and do nothing, and then I'll hit the travel phase, and then I will pick, we'll pick Boulder Field, because I think that gives the best shot against the being that we're trying to eventually hunt, the Caustic Vulture. And you can see with travel, once you've rested, which I did rest, any rest phase actions or rest moments would trigger. So we'll clear the play area, which suppose we do. We'll travel to the new location, which we've done. Then we'll decide to camp. So ending a game in this game, or ending your play session in this game, is rather intriguing because there is no forced ending other than wounds and ranger deck running out. So you have some flexibility. And the most advantageous time to camp is in between locations when you're traveling, like I am, because there is no difference when you rest, when you camp, and you're done for your day, unless you camp during travel, and then you can take the new cards you've earned, like this Gauzblade, and add it into your deck. So you can do some deck building in between game sessions if you camp between locations. Theoretically, I could have camped without traveling when Quiet was still engaged with me, or sorry, not when Quiet was engaged with me. When Quiet's engaged with me at Ancestors Grove, if I couldn't run away, if my character wasn't so good at just fleeing from danger, then there would have been no real penalty for doing so, but then I couldn't potentially add the Gauzblade. So if you've got no new cards you want to add, you don't really have to worry about running away and using this travel camping mechanic. You can just camp when your turn is up. But I'm going to go ahead and camp between locations because, after all, the gauze blade is pretty sweet, and I want to make sure that I get this piece of cloth that turns into a blade potentially added to my deck. So that'll do it, explorers, for this look at both the Earthborne Rangers demo and the Earthborne Rangers demo within Tabletop Simulator, exploring just one aspect of the game that they've shown us, the prologue deck or character builder, as well as just one day out of the 30 plus that you'll play for the campaign without the campaign elements, with some mild spoilers about the stuff you can find in the deck. And my character could then continue running around the valley, trying to help Cordo out, find him again, figure out what to do with this mulcher thing. Maybe he'll change in mind and try to not take the as violent route, but they are very good at violence thanks to their fitness. So that kind of is in addition to their lack of awareness, or not awareness, but their lack of focus, makes them kind of lean into the kind of ways that Cordo himself approaches the problems, which is just to hunt and punch and jump and climb. So it's probably where this character would be heading, but you never know. And I can definitely attest that the rewards for finishing the missions are very interesting, and I encourage you to explore them on your own. So in the meantime, have fun exploring, fellow Rangers, and thank you very much for watching this content. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Feel free to comment if you would like on any aspect of the game you would like to. Otherwise, have fun exploring.